Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video, I'm going to be working on this Generac GP6500E portable generator. So the story goes with this generator, I found it for $50, parts only, right here in my local town. The guy runs a construction company, and right off the bat, I knew right then and there that it's a construction site generator. This has likely lived a hard life. Now, $50, that's a pretty good deal considering, because if I can get this running, he had already replaced a lot of the parts that normally you would go and try to replace if there was anything wrong with it if it wasn't starting. He did drain out the tank. He refilled it with fresh fuel, so this is a full tank of fuel. So that's definitely going to add to the value, in addition to the $50 that I had already purchased for it. He got a new air box, a new air filter inside. It still has the plastic on it. He changed the carburetor. He changed the fuel filter. He even went and changed the ignition coil, and it still would not start. And then when I got over to check the machine out, I pulled the cord. The engine has zero compression. And when I told him that it could be something internally with the engine, he's like, no, just take it for $50. It's all yours. And hey, I think that was a pretty good deal. So in addition to no compression with the engine, the machine does need a few things. I was able to save the brackets here that go for the feet, and these were completely bent. It took me a little bit to bend them back into shape, but hey, I saved 20 bucks for a piece for bending them back into shape. I did order some rubber feet to replace on the bottom here. The battery is dead. We'll have to replace that. The positive cable of the battery, the ring terminal broke off here, so I do have it on the workbench. I'll just have to replace that, so that's something I can easily fix. I did order, if you can see here, the metal panel is loose because the plastic housing back here has broken. So I did order that from Jack Small Engines. It is a special order item. Hopefully I'll get that in soon. And last but not least, if you probably could see it a little better if I did it this way, but you notice the frame, it's off kilter a little bit on both sides. He did not secure it. I think that's where all the damage came from, at least the physical damage anyway, from the frame, is that he left it in his box truck going from site to site unsecured, and this thing was likely rolling around, bashing around, and the frame is bent. Not to the detriment of the function of the generator, but I'm going to try something crazy actually to see if I can bend this back into shape without having to use a hammer, because it's really not that bad, but I'm going to give it a try. You probably see it a little better. Well, maybe not so much, but you can see that it must have been dropped at one point because the center cross members have a bit of a bend to them. But again, not to the detriment of the function of the generator. We'll have to see what else we can do to try to straighten that out. And the last point here, you probably noticed, where are the handles? The handle likely broke off when it was in that box truck being thrown around, and what you would normally find here is a square-shaped bracket. It was welded to the frame, and I could go and weld another piece of angle iron here, and then I can buy the stock handle, but the stock handle I found out to be about $60 off of Amazon or Jack's, and it just didn't really make a lot of sense. So James Condon actually sent me a link where I can have an aftermarket handles to where it'll bolt right up here and make it easier to move this generator around. That is a lot less expensive, about $35, and hey, if it works, it works. So I got a few parts on the way here, but in the meantime, I want to take a look at the engine and see why it does not have compression. So let me get you set up on the tripod so you can see a little better and take a look at what's going on with the engine. We're going to start with popping the valve cover off. All right, so the first thing that I did was remove the 4 screws that hold the outlet panel in place. I disconnected the wires from the one side here that goes to the starter motor and the oil sensor, and then also to the end bell of the generator here. And the reason I had to take it out was because this plastic housing in the back was, well, it's all cracked. And I put some super glue on it off camera just to get everything back together. I'm not comfortable putting it back like this, and truly this is a bad design because all the strain for inserting and removing the outlets is on these plastic screw holes here. So I'm going to put some JB Weld on all four corners here before I reinstall it to really give it some extra strength. This part is still made by Generac, but it cost about $48 from Jack Small Engines, and it's special order. So I'm canceling that. I'm just going to redo that. So that's going to save me on my repair cost. The end bell of the generator looks pretty good. I just blasted it out with some air. I also had to take it off to remove the outlet panel. And I did remove this zip tie right here, which I will have to replace so that nothing gets caught. But everything looks good here. I think what the next step is now is to figure out why this machine has no compression. And for that, I'll get you guys set up on the tripod. And just to show that we have zero compression, I'm about to take off the valve cover here. And as you can see, the spark plug is still in there. No compression at all. Well, let's pull off that last screw and take a look inside. Sometimes I wish I had a lift table like James. We'll see what we got here. All right. Yeah, that's pretty caked up. For sure, the engine has not been maintained very well. So let's see. All right. That one feels okay. No play in it at all. Get the intake to open. That's about right. All right, well, that looks like we have ourselves a tight valve. I like simple fixes here, at least I hope. Let's see what we can do. All right, so we'll try to loosen this up. There's a square end here. Wow, that's tight. Okay. Open it. Oh, there we go. Yep, that's... Yes, all right. That's where the missing compression is at. So the intake valve is all the way in. And now this is very loose, which is what we want. I'm gonna have to readjust it. Now, I'm gonna put the specs of what the intake and the exhaust need to be. It's very obvious that no one's really changed this oil. I'm going to have to run a few oil changes through this to kind of get some of this sludge out. But that is not bad. So now if we just get it to where I need it to be, just roughly, before I tighten everything up. Yep. That's enough compression to pull to get the engine running for sure. Beautiful. All right. We're going to adjust that to spec and try to clean this up a little bit, make sure everything's okay. I don't see anything else in there, no other damage or anything like that. Pins are still here. The clips for the rocker arms, more likely than not, I would say that lack of maintenance. The valve will recede into the head over time going this way, and it will take up that valuable clearance here at the rocker arm and the valve. So most likely on the exhaust valve because the exhaust valve gets more heat than the intake does. But looks like that's our problem. All right, so I have here, I don't know, well, you can't really see too well, but I have 6/1000 of an inch for the intake and 8/1000 of an inch for the exhaust. What we'll do, well, since we have that exhaust valve more loose than the intake, now it's a lot harder to pull. I haven't pulled the spark plug yet. Normally I would do that, but since I'm showing this on camera, I'll make do. All right, so here's your 6/1000. You want 8/1000 of an inch, which is a bit too tight. Okay, that feels pretty good. What we'll do is we'll hold that in place. And then tighten down the 10mm bolt, or nut I should say. And let's see how we did. Good. Seems like it's a lot for 8/1000 of an inch, but I just get a little bit of drag on that. Now I'm not doing the whole compression stroke top dead center. If one valve is closed, then the other valve is going to be on the flat part of the camshaft. I'm going to do the same thing here for the intake. Wait for that exhaust valve to open all the way. Now that one's loose, and this one's supposed to be 6/1000 of an inch. Just a little bit of drag. Actually, that one's not too bad. Probably would leave well enough alone, but what we'll do, we'll get this exactly right. Okay. Okay, right there's where we need it to be. There we go. Just a slight amount of drag on each side. Okay. I think that should do it for the valves. And normally I would be looking at the carburetor, but we know that the carburetor is brand new. I don't see anything wrong with that. I am going to check for spark here. But I think we're all set with these valves. So we're going to go ahead and button this up after I clean this out. That's pretty dirty. All right, that looks good.
Now that we got the valves squared away, I want to check on the spark here. Turn this off. Get some spark. That's a nice healthy spark. And it should be, because the guy did change out the ignition coil, and it looks like he gapped it correctly, because that's a very strong spark. So that's one less thing to worry about. Okay, here we are on the other side of the machine. So I did order a new battery, because most likely this is not going to be in good shape. So I want to see. The positive battery cable was damaged. I got to fix the ring terminal on it. Yeah, so you only got 2.7 volts in there. That battery is likely sulfated or is much older than I think. I don't know what these numbers mean on the top. 2013. Actually, yeah, that's what that is. This battery is from March of 2013 there. Yeah, I would say it's in need of replacement. Normally, if you would get a battery, even if it's at 10.5 volts, you might still be able to save it. Most smart chargers won't even turn on when you have a voltage that low. So, all right, battery's got to come out. All right, so this battery is only held in by two 8mm screws. You should be able to take this completely out. And whoever designed where this is located ought to think twice, because the one 8mm back here is extremely difficult to get to without taking the wheel off, but thankfully that wasn't too bad. All right, so we know that battery is toast, and the new battery should be here today. I think this machine deserves an oil change, so let's go ahead and do that. Before I go and do that, actually, I'm going to go and fix this positive battery cable. The battery cable's got to go here, and it's got to go to this terminal, to the starter contactor. I picked one up over at the hardware store. It's actually for a 6 gauge. I believe this is an 8 gauge, but what we'll do is we'll crimp that on here, and then we'll put it back on here and make sure it's all taped up properly. Here's the repaired positive terminal, and it goes right here to the contactor on the outside connector here. I'm going to wait to install it because there are 2 wires from the control panel that are on here. When I reinstall the panel here, then I should be able to reinstall the cable on top of it and tighten it down. Well, I think this machine is deserving an oil change. That's all right, we got some fresh oil in it. I think we're going to probably do more than one oil change on this. But in that last segment, my parts came in. We got ourselves a new battery. We have some handlebars, since the one that was meant for this generator has broken off. And then we got some rubber feet to put back on the sides there. All right, for the control panel here, we have some broken plastic pieces, and I want to reinforce that with some good old JB Weld. I'm going to mix up some of this. Put it on all 4 of these mounting screws, and then we'll let it set up. Once we do that, this should be ready to go. I did look inside here, and all the connections look tight, no problems there. I do need to check to see if this hour meter works. It wouldn't be too hard to get to if I had to replace that. I'd be curious to see how many hours are on this machine. But let's get this JB Weld on there. At least that part will be ready to go. For the bracket here, I was able to save them. Not perfect, but they'll work. Got myself a screw here. Now the original ones are actually 2 of these as far as thickness is concerned. Oh, yeah, look at the camera. And what we'll do is we'll just push the screw through. And we'll just double up on these. There. Don't need to be gorilla tight, just snug enough. And now we should be able to put this back on. Let's get one of them started. Tighten that up and do the same thing for the other side, and we got ourselves our feet. Feet are attached. Can actually and that looks like it's sitting pretty low. Now the feet are done. Alright, installing the new battery. We'll keep the plastic covers on them for right now until we're ready to reinstall the panel. I did notice here that I might have gotten the wrong battery type, but the reason is that the original battery had the terminals going this way, the new one has them going this way. But that shouldn't be a problem because I can bend this one straight, and then the one here that's going to need to go like this, I could probably just bend. It'll be a little tight. I can bend this in this way. There we go. It'll be tight, but it'll fit. All right, now to solve the problem of the missing handle mount here. It looks like this kit from James is going to work just fine. And that should give me the leverage I need to move this. This is pretty heavy. It's well over 200 pounds. But it will seem that all I have to do is go ahead and remove the bolt here. They do give you some hardware here as well. Some thick washers. And to support this part of the tank here, otherwise it is going to fall on me. Actually, looks like it's stable enough if I do them one at a time. These will go on the inside, like so. Oh, looks like I'm going to have to support it to the side here. The only way I'm going to be able to do it. Once you get one side in, should be okay. Okay, there we go. Line this up here. It's because the frame is bent, it's a little bit harder to install here, which I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to address that. Now, we got ourselves some handles to move this thing around a lot easier. So I'll go ahead and put the other one on. All right. Unfortunately, the feet, the whole frame is bent. But that's okay. All right, we got ourselves some handles, and this should definitely work. Unfortunately, because of the frame being bent, it's not going to sit level. In fact, you can see how much it was bent. Now, I was going to do something crazy, and by crazy, I was going to put this generator on my trailer, which has a 2,500 pound winch, and using the winch power, I can try to pull the frame back into place by securing it on the bottom here. But then I thought better of it, because if that cable were to snap, then it would likely go into the back window of my car. So I think I'm just going to leave well enough alone, leave the frame as it is. It's not going to bother the machine, and we'll continue on with the repair. Looks like it's been about 45 minutes to an hour, so it's nice and solid. We'll flip it over, and then we'll go and mix up some more of the JB weld and put it on this side so that it's got plenty of strength when we reinstall it. Well, that should take care of those mounting screws. We'll let that set up for half an hour to an hour here and reinstall it on the generator. But I'm confident now with that JB weld on there, it should at least be 10 times better than what it was. While we're waiting for the control panel to dry, I'm going to do some preventative maintenance. I'm going to pop these brushes out and see what their condition is. I'll leave the wires connected here because I will have to fix this. Not too bad. And the slip rings don't look half bad either. Good. Alright, well, this is going to have to be replaced. I don't see any problems with the slip rings. See if I can set you up guys a little better. You can see those slip rings in there. A little dirty. We'll clean those up. And I think I have an extra set of brushes just for the heck of it. Positive is right here, and it's also got the symbol here. A little bit tighter. There we go. Do the same thing for this one. There we go. All right, let's go clean those slip rings with some solution. A little bit of carb spray works the same way. I just want to clean each brush or slip ring there best I can. There's already some junk coming off of it. All right. Pull it over a little bit. So contact cleaner or some emery cloth will clean that up pretty good. And they're not too bad. Some sharp stuff here actually. Just rip my glove. Underneath it actually, so I don't have to rotate the engine again. Get on the side that I couldn't get to. All right, I'll put the brushes on and we'll measure the resistance to make sure everything's good. All right. Looks like we're getting some good contact here. It's about 90 ohms, 89 ohms. A little hard to see. But that looks to be about right. I'd have to look at the service manual to see what the exact spec is, but more of a preventative maintenance thing to replace the brush heads since it is a wearable item. So we'll move on.
Here we are the next day. The epoxies had some time to set up and we're ready to put that back into the generator. I'm just doing some Murphy's Law preventative maintenance here, checking out the outlets here to make sure that they're all functional, ohming out between the wires here that would go to the stator. You got your two hots, the X and the Y on the red and blacks, and then you have your neutral white and then your green, the earth ground that goes back up and runs to all the outlets here. Just making sure that we have continuity between the outlets here and then the wires going to the stator, which is good. The other wires that are coming off of here are having to do with the 12-volt system. It's for the low oil sensor to shut down the ignition, the starter switch to actually engage the starter contactor for the electric start, and also the charge port here in the front to charge the onboard starter battery. Now the fuse here is meant for the charge port in the front there to charge the starter battery. It's to protect the starter battery and also the charge wall wart that would normally come with this generator. It is a 3 amp slow blow and the size of it is 6 millimeters by 30 millimeters. I believe that's standard size. The fuse is right here and I was testing it. It's, well, you can't really see it too well. Let me see if I can go a little closer. It's a 3 amp, part number is a BS1362, and then your 6 by 30 millimeters for the size. Nothing out of the ordinary. Unfortunately, this one is blown, and I'm not sure why, but if I wanted to use the charge port here in the front, it would not charge the starter battery, and I would need to replace that. And that, again, this is just to protect it so that it doesn't, short circuit or melt anything, cause a fire. It's important to make sure that fuse is set correctly. The last piece I wanted to check was the hour meter. The hour meter is right here, and it is powered by 120 volts. You could see the white wire for the neutral and the X hot on the black wire, which is jumpered off of the line side of this circuit breaker here for the L1430. And in theory, how this would work was that it powers 120 volts, and then it would track the hours of how much time the hour meter is powered with that voltage. And then when you turn it off, this should at least have, I think this has a battery inside that would keep the display steady on and track the hours and give you any kind of alert, say change the oil or any maintenance intervals. I believe that this meter is capable. Unfortunately, it is not working. I just tried powering it with the wall power from my house to see if it would turn on, and it is not. To replace this, I think is like $55 from Generac. A little bit rich for my blood, so I'm going to see if I can find a suitable replacement that will fit in this form factor here that can still be powered by 120 volts. Unfortunately, since that doesn't work, I do not know how many hours are on this engine. Given that it was a construction site generator, probably has a decent amount of hours. Likely wasn't maintained as we've seen from the oil change, but other than that, the electric panel here is ready to be reinstalled. I'll get myself a new fuse to put that in so I can use the front charge port if I wanted to, and we should be good. All right, we got the hour meter removed. It's a snap-in type. A little bit of a pain unless you have a large screwdriver. I was trying not to damage it, but it really doesn't matter because this no longer works. Powering it with 120 volts doesn't do anything. $55 from Generac. Come on, Generac. That's way expensive for something like this. You can go on Amazon and you can find the same size form factor, and it actually has a third lead here if you wanted to hook it up to the ignition coil. Instead, this is powered by the AC of the generator. And I found that exact one that will be here tomorrow for $18 delivered to my door. I mean, talk about ripping you off. But hey, at least you'll be able to go and measure the hours and change the intervals for what it's worth. And at least that now will be functioning. I was just about to install the outlet panel here and get it all back together, but I cannot because this whole frame piece here is actually bent. It's bent in the middle like the Titanic before it split in two. The holes for the outlet panel no longer line up. It's actually wider up here than it is down here. And that's just, I think it was actually dropped now that I'm looking at it. Take a look. The frame is off to this side. You can see it on the outside frame. The middle has moved down a little bit. Nothing wrong with the generator as far as the mounting because it's got the rubber isolator, so that likely took a lot of the impact, but the frame saved the generator, but the frame took the brunt of the damage here.
You can even see how much of the cross members have actually bowed in the middle. I think I may actually have to address some of this frame issue here. Just because if I try to reinstall the outlet panel, I could try to drill holes here a little bit wider so that it fits, and that may just be the right way to go. Or I can give myself some sledgehammer therapy and take the generator out of the frame, take the gas tank off, and just beat the whole thing into submission on this flat concrete ground until it's straight again. Stay tuned. Okay, so what I've done is I've taken off the gas tank. It's easy to take off with the 4 bolts here, take off the vent, and then remove the feeder line going to the carburetor. And right here, you can really see how bent it is, at least on this side. I have a 5-pound sledgehammer here. We're going to give that a try. Before I installed this, I was able to actually line it back up because I just bashed on it on the top here, straightened it out. So this is ready to go back on, but I got to straighten out the frame. Otherwise, this plastic is just going to wind up breaking again. So. All right, guys, I do apologize. I did not get any of that on video, but I did take the whole generator out of the frame, and you can just see how badly the frame is out of square. I'm going to try my best to actually bash it back into place. And it wasn't that hard in terms of getting the generator out. It's just held in by the 4 bolts. So over here, these bolts go up into where the engine is, and then they're mounted to the frame. I'm actually missing one of these nuts here. I'm going to have to replace that. But again, I was able to straighten this out pretty easily because it's thin metal. And now the outlet panel is lined up and secure. But what we're going to try to do is try to bash this back into submission as best I can. And I may actually still try that crazy idea I was talking about, because now that this is just the bare frame, then what I can probably do without much difficulty, because it is hollow tube, it's not that stiff to where I think a 2,500 pound winch can't fix that. But what I'm going to start with are those cross members. Where it dropped, and you can see how bad it was. I'll try and bash on it from the middle here and see if that fixes it. And then we'll try bashing on this one section here where it actually bent down. Most definitely this frame got dropped somewhere. Not from being bashed around inside the truck, but definitely dropped. Thankfully, there's no damage to the generator at all. Nothing wrong with the stator. I did try it for a few seconds on some starter fluid. It now starts up and it runs. But now it's just a matter of getting all the other pieces done so we can reinstall everything and put that back together, to which I will be filming that. All right, so I've done this crazy setup. I decided to go for it. I have on my trailer here a 2,500 pound winch. And what I've done is taken everything off of the frame and I've strapped it down. I have some D-rings on each corner to hold down machines when I pick them up. And then this was the side that was bent out this way. I just hooked it up there, used the piece of wood there to kind of distribute the weight. And I've had crazy ideas, I've had stupid ideas, but I think this idea is going to work. So we're going to try to bend it back into place without having this thing go crazy. Oh, go the other way. There it goes. Little at a time. A little bit more. Now it's actually bending too much. But I think that might have done it. All right, that seems to have done the trick. Now these bars are pretty much at a 90-degree angle.
The only problem that I know I can't fix with this setup at least is because this is ever so slightly off, but that is better than what it was because the frame is actually twisted. I was able to bang out the middle one here, and I still have to flatten that out, but it is straight. So let's clean up and get into better light and a warmer space, and we'll continue on with the repair. Well, that's certainly a lot better than what I had. The only problem now is going to be that diagonally, but these pieces are straight. It's actually on this side that is where the problem is. I tried bashing out as much as I can, but I would probably need a pipe bender to really get it right. But the important thing is that the cross members that will hold the tank and the panel here are straight. It's not going to be under any stress. Those cross members I've banged out straight, and we should be able to get the generator back into the frame to reinstall everything and start to put it all back together. But what I'll do now is I'll put the wheels on and then compensate that one leg there and make it raised up a little bit so that it's stabilized. That way it won't be wobbling on a flat surface here. All right, this is a good stopping point for me. Just put some washers on that corner, and now everything is secured up. Time to get the generator back in the frame. All right, I did jump a little bit here. I did get the generator back in the frame. That was a lot harder to do when you're trying to deadlift a generator and power head. The power head is where most of the weight is, and suffice to say, I got it in there without much trouble. The only casualty was the air box, which I broke off the vent. So JB welding that right now, shouldn't be a big deal. And I did have to persuasion these to make this fit exactly. But the good thing is that we're looking at, it is now level, and we're level on that side, and as well, if I can, we're level on that side. Nothing beats a little bit of 5-pound sledgehammer therapy there. Sorry guys, I wasn't able to get that on camera, but suffice to say, that was a lot of fun. But now that everything's back together, I'm gonna stop tonight, and by tomorrow the hour meter should be in. And while I have the fuel tank off, it'll be a lot easier to get all the wiring back into place, and then I'll put the gas tank back on. The other thing I wanted to mention, the frame is now straightened out. That actually looks a lot better. Well, maybe you really can't tell, but the line level doesn't lie. Nice and straight now. I'll clean up the frame a little bit too. Probably power wash it if the weather's nice. But liking how this is coming out. All right, now let me get myself set up here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna reinstall the main windings here. And it will be important to make sure that we put everything back together correctly. So what we have here are the two hot wires on this insulating terminal block. We have the two neutrals. There's two windings in there, so this is the common point. And to note that this is a generator where the frame is grounded to the neutral is grounded to the frame. And that's important because when we connect it here, the neutral, which is the white wire, and the green, that's the ground, is going to go to the frame screw right here where the other neutrals are coming out of the stator. We're then going to put the red wire here on one of the hots, and then the X black wire on the other hot wire. So that's what we're going to do.
Now here on the 12-volt system, we have a few things going on. We have 2 ring terminals coming from the panel. They're going to go to the battery side of the starter contactor, and then we're going to put our 12-volt battery terminal there. There's a white Molex connector that goes to the contactor for that, and then we have these wires left. Now, this one here goes to the low oil switch, so it's yellow to yellow, and this will go here. And the reason I know that is because I took a picture and I pushed this off to the side when I took a picture, so I know which one it is. This other one here will go to the ignition kill wire, and then all of our connections are made. So put this insulator back on, and then we can tie up these wires here. It's got a little hook here that we can use. And we changed out that fuse from before. Most likely we'll have to go and zip tie it on the top here just so it's not in the way of the governor. I'll get a picture of that here in just a moment. Washer, lock washer. There we go. And what we'll do is we'll cover this up so it's nice and insulated. Nothing can ground out against anything. What we'll do is we'll connect the positive terminal of the battery first, leave the negative covered so we don't short anything out. These terminals go this way, but we'll just see if we can gentle persuasion bend it into place. You always want to remove the negative terminal of the battery first on any system. Otherwise, if it's the negative terminal is connected, you risk shorting out against the frame, and that would not be good. This is a little bit of a tight fit. But we'll get this. Once we get this tightened up. This is an 8mm. And it's knurled, so it's not going to go anywhere. I'll just push that over so that nothing gets grounded out to the frame. And we'll just move this around. And now we got that taken care of. We'll wait to hook up the negative terminal, which is located right here. Bring that down. And get the rest of the stuff put on here on the top. Now we're going to put back the air filter box. I don't know if you can see, but I had to JB weld this part here because it broke off when I was trying to get the generator in. Other than that, it should be an easy install. It's got a full tank of fuel. catch that. Now that we have everything all reattached and secured, last thing we're going to do is connect the negative terminal of the battery. What we're going to do is make sure our switch is off. It shouldn't spark, but it's always good to check. I taped off these wires for the hour meter for right now, but I just want to see if it'll actually crank. The spark plug is still disconnected. We got good compression and the electric start works. Awesome. Well, I'd say that's a pretty good test. We have power and it seems to be running pretty good. I am hearing a little bit of excessive valve tick. May have to go and adjust these valves again after it cools off. Maybe I made them a little too wide, but it runs and makes power. So wait for it to cool off. We'll adjust those valves one more time and double check them, and then we'll let it run for a little while to hopefully clean up any of that gunk, and then we'll change the oil again. All right, guys, I decided to take the valve cover off one more time. I found out there was a discrepancy inside the service manual versus the owner's manual. The exhaust valve in the owner's manual says it's supposed to be 8 thousandths of an inch, and then the service manual says that it's going to be 6 thousandths of an inch for both the intake and exhaust for the 389cc engine. So I readjusted the exhaust valve to 6 thousandths of an inch. Hopefully that should take care of the excessive valve ticking noise. And we're going to get this outside, put a 3,000 watt load on it,
And we're also going to check the voltage, the frequency, and some extra cool stuff. I have a meter to check out the total harmonic distortion of this machine. So let's get set up. We have the new hour meter in. Just snaps right in and the two wires hook up. I got 0.3 hours on it now, but that is now fixed. Right now unloaded, 62.5. And on the 240 volt line, we got 247 volts. And total harmonic distortion without a load, it's bouncing around anywhere from 4 to about 7%. Turn on the first 1500 watt load. Actually, 1250 and 1350. About 16.5% total harmonic distortion and 61.1. Leg is 123 volts. We're doing full 3,000 watts. And that heat feels good in this cold weather. 3,000 watt load. 61 hertz. 17.5% harmonic distortion. Well guys, I'm going to call this project complete. Total invested with the $50 purchase of this generator is a little over $110. I did get lucky having a full tank of fuel, so I can use that up. I'm going to actually make sure to use that up because I don't really trust gasoline to store very well for very long. But at least they'll be able to run this for a few hours off camera at half a load and then at full load to kind of get that engine crankcase cleaned up of that gunk, since it hadn't had its oil changed in a very long time. But with the investment of parts, we have some new handles, a new hour meter, a new battery, a couple ring terminals on the positive cable, and a new set of brushes that was on the house because I had a couple of those left over. This generator can handle a 3,000 watt load no problem. I'll run it at full load off camera, which shouldn't have a problem. Now, we did see on the total harmonic distortion meter that this generator, while it can have about 5% without a load, it jumps all the way up to about 17.5% under half a load, which would likely only go higher when you approach full load. That is typical and normal for a generator like this. I would not recommend using a generator like this for sensitive electronics like your computer, for example. There are some natural gas fired furnaces, even some fuel oil fired furnaces with the control boards that don't like dirty power that may have a problem running on a generator like this, so just be aware. I'm going to go ahead and charge the battery here with an external multi-stage smart charger. This generator, unfortunately, the GP series in general, with the exception of the 15,000 and 17,000 watt, I believe, this does not charge the onboard starter battery. That's why they give you the DC port in the front. There is a wall wart that you can buy to basically charge it, but they don't want you running it for more than 48 hours. This I can leave on there indefinitely because once it's charged, it'll go to a float mode and not overcharge that battery. But it's good to do to make sure that the battery doesn't go flat, and you'll be ready to crank the engine when you need it. Thanks again, guys, for watching and for supporting my channel. Really appreciate it. Until the next project.